So today, on my platform, I have with me a special guest, Jill. She's an author, speaker, and advocate who healed her childhood trauma-induced PTSD with psychedelic-assisted therapy. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. We want to hear from Jill how she healed her PTSD. So take it away, Jill.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that you set the time aside for me and my story. The I was diagnosed with PTSD because of childhood trauma when I was 46. So
Wow.
I lost my partner, Carl, we have been together for more than 20 years. And about 18 months after he passed, I started having panic attacks that I couldn't explain. And when I went back to my therapist who had helped me with my grief work, we started talking about some childhood stuff because my body was in a fight or flight mode. And that's when she diagnosed me. And I was a child of the 80s. I had no idea I actually had trauma. I just thought I had a bad childhood. Lots of people had it worse. And she led me to the research at MAPS.org, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, where they are conducting the clinical trials for the psychedelic MDMA, otherwise known as ecstasy or Molly on the street. And they are now at the point of they've completed their phase 2 of the phase 3 clinical trials. I have to spell that out very carefully. And the FDA is set to approve this therapy in 2024. And so my memoir is my story of how I worked through the therapy. My workbook is to help people get started because lots of people are heading down to Mexico and Peru to do this on their own. And I have an educational YouTube channel that is answering the questions that I get from people. It's the channel I wish had been around when I was going through the therapy. So
Right.
that's the quick summary of me.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned about heading down to Mexico, right? What's the purpose of people heading down to Mexico?
Well, so this therapy, um, psychedelic therapy in the US is not yet approved. MDMA has been labeled breakthrough therapy by the FDA, and MAPS.org is doing the clinical trials there. Johns Hopkins University got breakthrough therapy designation for psilocybin or magic mushrooms for depression. So those clinical trials and research are currently going on. Other countries do not have certain substances classified as Schedule 1 substance the way we do in the US. So that's why we're seeing a lot of psychedelic tourism and retreats in other parts of the world that deal with trauma.
Wow. So, how you feel about this whole mental thing? Because I am looking at mental illness from a broad aspect. Because I always tell people that mental health is a broad umbrella, and underneath it there comes different mental illnesses. So, what are some of your views on the ways that society views mental illness? That's not one of the questions in your bio, but however, I want to know, get your feel of it, how you feel about this.
I love that question. I love that question because I was probably the last person that anybody would have expected, number one, to be experiencing a mental illness. And I actually think trauma, wrote in my book that I consider trauma to be a mental injury. It's something that happens to us in a variety of ways. But secondly, so first, to be very open with the fact that at one point in my life, I was suicidal and I lived in fight and flight my entire life. So people, I think, were surprised about that. And they were doubly surprised that I would be so open about psychedelics as a healing modality. To answer your question very directly, I think it is very important that we continue having very authentic, real conversations about the mental health struggles that we have, very much dictated by some traumas that most of us had when we were little children and didn't even realize we were having. So I really
Right.
thank you for that question.
Sure, sure. So the reason for me to bring up that, I'm not sure if you see my podcast. I'm not as published as you. I don't have a lot out. I'm writing a book. It's soon to be finished. I just get the cover last night, and I'm so
Mhm.
excited. It's so beautiful. I share the cover with you. However, I grew up in a third world country. I'm originally from Jamaica, West Indies, but I live in the US for quite some time. So
Mhm.
when I was very young, at age 16, I 15 I get pregnant, 16 I have my child, and my first child, and then 8 months after I have my daughter. So one is 35, one is 34 today. At,
Wow.
at that time, I didn't understand my body very much because I'm still young. I'm still a child learning to understand life. And now I become a mother. It's a whole new
Sure.
change. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't understand what my body was going through. And when I went to the doctor, they use a term nervous breakdown. My therapist don't like that word at all. It says it sounds like a car, it's car breakdown. But that's a term they use back there, like nervous breakdown, you know?
Right.
And they gave me a little pill and sent me home. And I'm still struggling to understand what is happening in my body. Back then I didn't have a therapist. I didn't go to like see a psychiatrist or anything. It's when I
Yeah.
came to the United States of America, a whole broad aspect of this whole mental illness, I was exposed to it. I attend training, and now because of all that, I become a New York State certified peer specialist. Are you familiar with the term peer specialist?
I'm not, but no matter what, just the achievement of doing that, I applaud that.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a 6 months training. And after that graduation, I now work for a non-profit organization where we work with severely mentally ill clients. We work on the IMT team, which stands for Intensive Mobile Treatment. So myself and the nurse and the practitioner and the social workers, we head out into the community. So wherever these clients are, whether they live underneath the subways in New York, wherever they are, we go there. And some of the appearance, some of the body stench or odor, for lack of a better word, we have to deal with it
Sure.
because we're trying to help these clients to be whole in society again. And I love my job. And I know that you may not, familiar with the term peer specialist. It's fairly new. A lot of people don't know about the term. It's peer support. And a matter of fact, they have peer support in other, not only in mental health, but in other areas of not mental illness, but physical health as well. People probably
Okay.
suffering from cancer and everything, and they just need support. So, you can look into it further. So this is what has led me to this point to
Okay.
start my podcast and writing my book.
Excellent.
And that's the story of me in a nutshell. So um a couple weeks ago,
Beautiful.
I received an email from Alex on Padmatch, and that
Ah,
opened a whole new avenue for me because I started my podcast in 2019 by myself. I'm a strong-willed person. If I ask you, Jill, do you want to partner with me, and you tend to hesitate and not showing any interest, I'm going to do what I have to do. So
right.
at the time when I think of my podcast, I'd ask two people if they want to, partner with me to do the podcast. They never give me a good response. So I say, hey, I was born alone, and maybe I'm going to achieve my achievements alone. Let us start my podcast. Yeah, I didn't wait on them. So even though at the time my podcast wasn't edited properly, because I'm so excited. Oh, I have a platform, I can hear my voice. I was so excited. So I just started off as nothing. Let me try this thing out. And here I am
Uh-huh.
today with people like you, and who are well published and out there already. I feel so privileged to have you and other guests. You
Oh
know,
gosh. No, no,
I,
no, no, no,
I'm so
no. It's my
humbled.
you're taking the time to chat with me, and you're clearly doing some phenomenal work. Are there specific questions I can answer that can somehow be related to what you're doing?
Oh, well,
I'm happy to try.
I have three questions for you. You answered one already about the
Okay.
psychedelic. So my second question is, what is the difference between an MDMA and how you pronounce it?
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin, magic
Psil-
mushroom? Yeah, yeah.
Magic mushroom.
Yes. Could you
Trust me,
give me
I'm not
some
even
more?
sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. So, in a nutshell, there are the same way that there are different kinds of pain medication, the different brands that are out there, and they
Hmm.
they attack pain in a different way. There are a variety of psychedelics that work in our brains a variety of ways.
Hmm.
So, just to keep it super simple, the two compounds that were used with my treatment, MDMA is considered an empathogen. It releases a bunch of serotonin in the brain, and I'm not a doctor, so that's as technical as we're going to get.
Right.
uh, but what MDMA does for trauma patients or PTSD patients is it increases a sense of wellness, a sense of trust, a sense of empathy. And for me, I always do this. It makes my fight or flight response decrease so that I
Oh.
could start to process some emotions. Psilocybin or magic mushrooms, on the other hand, is that's more of your classical, stereotypical psychedelic experience with, depending on your dosage, different visuals, very much an inner voice. And for me specifically, it was used because I was butting against a trauma point when I was 5, and the MDMA allowed me to see it, but I couldn't restructure it or reframe it in my brain. And psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms, in this instance, just a small dose, allowed me to actually reframe. I had a little inner 5-year-old girl that was still trapped in the home where her mother shot herself. The
Mm.
magic mushrooms, literally, the visual let me kind of break that house apart, and be free. And so it was a really fascinating process for me using the two. Um, that's how I had the most healing. Did that help?
Yes, I mean, for me and the audience, it does, but I want you to like give a little more clearer understanding of how the psychedelic assisted therapy works, like a little more in depth. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know the psychedelic part is, the fun, the awesome part, right? The reality of this therapy is that it breaks down and this is just rough numbers: 40%, 20%, 40%. 40% is the talk therapy before the therapeutic psychedelic journey. That's where you're working with your therapist. You're potentially working also with a guide, because the MAPS protocol has two people working with one patient. And you're identifying what your concerns are, what your issues are, what's making you feel upset, and you're setting your intentions, what your goals are, what you want to heal, what you don't understand. For me, it was, why am I just so afraid of the universe? The universe is absolutely out to get me. 20% of the time is the actual psychedelic journey. And the journey can last anywhere from 5 to 8 hours. My headphones just went a little funky. There we go. They can last anywhere from 5 to 8 hours. It's a full day. It's you and two other qualified individuals working with you. Then the last 40%, that's the days, the weeks, the months after the psychedelic therapeutic experience. And that's called integration. And that's where, for me as a child abuse victim, I was able to reframe so much of my childhood, that it was not the universe being bad or I didn't deserve to live, that my father was beating me up. I was finally able to look and see those beatings as a very, very hurt man being very cruel to a child, and
Mm.
releasing the I'm not good enough, the universe is out to get me. Like, so much of that, toddlers can't handle the fact that their um
Karen?
what's the word, their parents would be hurting them. They
Yeah.
just can't figure that out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I had internalized that the world was a dangerous place.
Wow.
So it's super important everybody realize, and that's why I wrote the book and I wrote the workbook, because it's super fun to say that the psychedelic experience is, 8 years of therapy in 5 hours or whatever numbers people say. But the reality is that for me, over the course of 1 year, 3 psychedelic sessions, I had integration time periods anywhere from 3 to 6 months in between to allow for the integration and the healing.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I like the way how your background set up with the book over here. Reside in
Rescuing, rescuing
Rescue
Jill.
Hill,
Yep,
Dale or Hill.
Jill,
Oh,
rescuing
Jill,
Jill.
Jill. Okay. And on the other side over here, I can't see that plaque. Is it a plaque? What is that? Or it's a book? It's a book or it's a plaque?
So that's one of my old laptops, and I love the quote. It says, "Those who say it cannot be done shouldn't interrupt the people doing it."
Wow, wow, that's very powerful. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad to have you today, and I'm very happy that we can share this space and we can
Yeah.
learn so much. I know you said the FDA going to be approving the psychedelic next year, right? 2024.
MDMA for PTSD. I just want to be very specific that it's one compound, and yes, in 2024.
Okay, so it will be in New York next year, by next year.
Well, so unfortunately, it'll be a little bit slower. So the FDA has to approve the treatment, then the DEA has to reschedule the psychedelic MDMA for it to be allowed to be used in the US, and then the state oh, I lost my headphone. And then the states individually have to also approve. So
So it's
there's
a
a
long
couple of steps.
process. Yeah, it's a long
Yeah,
process.
it's
But
going to be a process.
it sounds very, very interesting. And I know that there are many people who would want to try it. Just a simple fact with the energy and the enthusiasm that you speak on it. I know a lot of people like myself. I would love to have that kind of therapy as well.
Yep.
To
Yep.
be a part of my routine. How many minutes we have?
It hasn't stopped us yet. I think we're
Okay.
okay for a little longer.
Okay,
But yeah, it
sure.
hasn't.
So I
I would
want
say
you
we
to
should probably go about 5 more minutes.
okay. So I want you to tell the listeners where they can find your book and the information that you share and any social media you're on where they can follow you to hear more of your story.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So,
Sure.
uh, Rescuing Jill and the companion workbook, they're both on Amazon. Everything I have is over at thejourneysage.com, because the journey, when you talk about healing with psychedelics, it's a journey versus recreation with psychedelics is very often referred to as a trip. And sage means educator. I started my career as an educator, so that's why I'm the journey sage. And the website has all my podcasts, all the articles, all the resources I've been collecting. People ask me all the time where they can get more information. And of course, the Journey Sage over on YouTube is where I'm deep diving into what the therapy is, to demystify how psychedelics work in healing trauma. I get the same question pretty much over and over and over again. So that's where the answers are. But you can also find me on TikTok. I'm pretty much everywhere.
Oh, awesome. So what the main goal or what do you want your legacy to be uh
I
now in the future?
the only reason I'm doing this is that I had the privilege of going through the therapy and it saved my life. And
Awesome.
I know the stigma that is around psychedelics, and I want to be a voice of reason and a supporter of this therapy that, frankly, 5% of the US population on average suffers from PTSD symptoms. If I can have a voice and help people in their healing, I felt like it was my responsibility. So that's, taking my childhood and turning it around to be able to help other people. That's what I want my legacy to be. And I love that you asked me that question. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I just want to say I'm very happy and feel very privileged, as I said, to have you on today. My purpose also is that because I realize the vulnerable community of people that is around us. And I always said that there's many people who walking around or a neighborhood or a community with mental health issues. The only reason is that they're not diagnosed, but they do have issues. You understand? And I want to be a voice. My reason for my podcast and my book is I want to be a voice for those who are afraid to just simply share their story because of the stigma and the labels that people label mental health. And to save life, because when you hear of people taking their life, oh, and then the last result, oh, they were suffering in depression, but nobody didn't know because they're afraid of what people gonna call them,
Yes.
the name. So I'm doing this so that I can let community be aware that, hey, you don't have to bear your cross alone or go to your struggles alone. There are people who are out there who are willing to share and to lean in and to hear your story and to also help you to overcome those hurdles and challenges in life. And we are all in it together. And this is what I want the audience to take away, that don't be afraid to share your story. Tell it to Sonia, tell it to Jill, tell it to others. Yeah, and we could probably help them to get on the platform where their story can be heard. And this is what
Yes.
I want to, leave with the audience.
Oh my gosh. Lovely. It has been a privilege chatting with you. Thank you so much for today.
Yes, I'm so happy that I was able to do this, even though our internet were messing up. It actually turns out to be great.